Hi, my name's Chloe Tia. Being a partially sighted young woman with cerebral palsy means that digital accessibility is just so important to me. I'm taking part in a campaign run by HeX Productions, and they aim to tackle digital accessibility in the run-up to the public sector compliance. This is happening on the 23rd of September, with the hope that all public sector websites will be fully accessible so everyone can get the information that they need. What does good digital access mean to me? Digital access means that I am able to read and source content just like anybody else. It means that I don't have barriers to access essential information like on government websites. It means that I am seen as equal as a disabled young person, and I think that, it will help a lot of people. Accessible information not only helps disabled people, but it also is a growing platform which allows content to be produced in a way that is suitable for all. What are the most common barriers to digital accessibility that I face? I'd have to say the most common barrier for me is just being able to read the content on a page. If the contrast is wrong or there's not an option to use it with a screen reader, it just isn't possible for me to kind of understand the content that I am reading. It also means that I am then reliant on others to check information, which just dehumanises me, because why shouldn't I be able to access information which I'm more than entitled to do so? What are my top 3 digital accessibility must-haves? My first digital accessibility must-have just has to be a good contrast. So the background and the text work well together. If they're too similar, it just makes it impossible to read any content, and that will apply to everyone, not just those who have a visual impairment. Second would have to be pop-ups. Are you ever on a website where you just can't get to the content you're wanting to read because of pop-ups? Because screen readers very often don't understand pop-ups and therefore just stop you from accessing the content altogether. And thirdly, I would have to say that crowded images and images that don't have alt text is my third must-have. We need to be able to understand images. This might be because it relates to the piece, or it might just be because the image has text on, which visual impairment people are going to miss out on if the description is not adequate. And I think alt text is something that everyone needs to know about, and something that isn't necessarily that hard to do. Have I ever found it impossible to access a website, and what have I done about this? To be honest, if there is a website that is inaccessible, I'm going to click off it. I'm going to go and try and find the information in a more accessible place. However, if this website is something official for the local council or government, and therefore that is the most reliable source for that information, inaccessibility just stops me being independent. In these circumstances, I would have to get someone else to look at it for me, or would try and use alternative methods, which is actually more hassle. And I think good digital accessibility just needs to be implemented across the board. Disabled people are worthy customers, people, readers. So by not making your website accessible, you just block out a whole group of people. If I could have an organisation change one thing on their website, what would it be and why? Make accessibility the norm. Digital accessibility doesn't need to be an afterthought, and it shouldn't be something that you hurry to do at the end because you've forgotten. By implementing digital accessibility into the core of your website and the core of your content, you're ensuring that it just becomes part of normal practice, and I believe this is something it already should be. By making content accessible, you are opening up the world to so many people who deserve to read the content, and if your content is worth reading, then make sure it's accessible.